In a galaxy bustling with powerful civilizations, the Zephyrians once held a prominent place. Known for their advanced technology and rich culture, they had been a key player in galactic politics. But times had changed, and now the Zephyrians were considered weak and irrelevant. The Zephyrians were a species with tall, slender bodies and glowing bioluminescent skin. Their once great cities were now in ruins, and their technology was outdated. Many years of neglect and conflict had left their society on the brink of collapse. Once they were revered for their achievements, but now they were seen as a relic of the past. The major galactic powers, including the Krillians, the Dravari, and the Volnax, had all turned their backs on the Zephyrians. To these powerful factions, the Zephyrians were no more than a nuisance. The Krillians had once fought alongside them, but now they saw them as a weak link. The Dravari, known for their ruthless nature, viewed the Zephyrians' desperation as an opportunity to seize their resources. The Volnax, a technologically advanced species, considered them an outdated curiosity. Desperate for help, the Zephyrians sent out countless messages to the galaxy's most influential factions. They pleaded for aid, but their cries fell on deaf ears. Every time they reached out, they were met with disdain or outright refusal. The Zephyrians' pleas were often met with mocking laughter or cold indifference. The other species were too focused on their own interests to care about the plight of a once great but now weak species. As the Zephyrians struggled, their situation grew increasingly dire. Their infrastructure crumbled, and their once thriving economy became a shadow of its former self. Many of their people were left without homes, and their once advanced technology was now outdated and barely functional. The once great Zephyrian Empire was now a mere shadow of its former self, with its people living in poverty and fear. In the midst of this bleak situation, a small human delegation took notice. Captain Elena Ramirez, a dedicated and compassionate leader, had heard of the Zephyrians' plight through unofficial channels. Unlike the powerful galactic factions, the humans had no direct stake in the Zephyrians' struggle. Yet Captain Ramirez and her team felt a sense of duty to help those in need. The human delegation was a small group, but they were determined to make a difference. They operated in secrecy, as their own government was not interested in intervening. The humans began providing aid to the Zephyrians quietly. They sent advanced technology, medical supplies, and essential resources. The Zephyrians were initially suspicious of these unexpected allies, wondering why humans would bother with their desperate situation. Despite their doubts, the Zephyrians began to see the humans' genuine intentions. Slowly, trust was built between the two groups. The humans worked alongside the Zephyrians, sharing their knowledge and helping to repair damaged infrastructure. They also helped train the Zephyrians in the use of new technology, which brought a glimmer of hope to their struggling society. As the humans continued their support, the Zephyrians started to see improvements. Their cities began to recover, and their technology became more reliable. The humans' aid was a lifeline for the Zephyrians, and it brought new hope to a species that had been forsaken by the galaxy. The once deadly silence was now filled with the sounds of rebuilding and renewed determination. Captain Ramirez and her team knew that their actions might not change the galaxy overnight, but they were making a difference for the Zephyrians. They had shown that even in a galaxy where power and strength ruled, there was still a place for compassion and aid. The Zephyrians, though weak and forsaken by the galaxy, had found allies in the most unexpected of places. In a time when everyone else had turned away, the humans had chosen to stand by the Zephyrians. This small act of kindness was the beginning of a new chapter for both species. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes strength could come from the most unlikely sources. Captain Elena Ramirez and her team worked quietly in the shadows, far from the prying eyes of the galaxy's power brokers. Their mission was clear: to help the Zephyrians, who were now struggling to rebuild their society. The humans knew that their aid could change the Zephyrians' fate, but they had to be careful. The powerful galactic factions would not approve of their actions. In secret, the human team began their work. They started by sending advanced medical supplies to the Zephyrians. Hospitals that had once been barely functional now received high-quality equipment and medicines. Doctors and nurses, overwhelmed by the crisis, were grateful for the support. The medical supplies helped save lives and ease the suffering of many Zephyrians. Next, the humans provided technology to help the Zephyrians repair their crumbling infrastructure. They sent advanced tools and machinery that made the rebuilding process faster and more efficient. The once broken power grids and communication networks were slowly coming back online. The Zephyrians, who had grown used to living in darkness and isolation, began to see signs of progress. Despite these improvements, trust between the two species was not immediate. The Zephyrians had long been wary of outsiders and were cautious of the humans' motives. Many wondered why a species from a distant corner of the galaxy would go to such lengths to help them. Was there a hidden agenda? Were the humans expecting something in return? Captain Ramirez understood these concerns and worked hard to address them. She and her team held regular meetings with Zephyrian leaders, explaining their intentions and demonstrating their commitment to helping without any strings attached. Over time, the Zephyrians began to see that the humans were genuine in their desire to assist. One day, as the Zephyrians struggled to repair a critical water purification system, the human engineers stepped in. They worked side by side with Zephyrian technicians, sharing their knowledge and skills. The humans showed the Zephyrians how to use the new equipment and troubleshoot problems that had previously seemed insurmountable. This hands-on approach not only improved the Zephyrians' infrastructure, but also built strong bonds of cooperation and friendship. As the Zephyrians became more comfortable with the humans, they started to open up about their needs and challenges. They shared their history, their culture, and their hopes for the future. The humans listened carefully and offered their support in areas where it was needed most. They helped the Zephyrians develop new agricultural techniques to improve food production and train them in better methods of resource management. Captain Ramirez also took time to learn about the Zephyrians' unique traditions and customs. She attended cultural events and participated in their rituals, showing respect for their heritage. This gesture of goodwill went a long way in winning the Zephyrians' trust and appreciation. They began to see the humans not as mere saviors, but as allies and friends. The human team's efforts were not without challenges. They had to navigate political tensions and deal with factions within the Zephyrian society that were resistant to change. Some Zephyrians felt uncomfortable with the rapid changes and viewed the humans with suspicion. However, Captain Ramirez and her team remained patient and persistent, addressing concerns and building confidence in their mission. As weeks turned into months, the effects of the human aid became more evident. The Zephyrian cities were slowly recovering, and their society was beginning to thrive again. The people, once resigned to their fate, now had hope for a better future. They were starting to believe in the possibility of a new beginning, thanks to the support and friendship of the humans. In the heart of this recovery, Captain Ramirez and her team found satisfaction in their work. They knew that their actions had made a significant difference in the lives of the Zephyrians. The once weak and forsaken species were now on the path to rebuilding their future. And through their efforts, the humans had shown that even in a galaxy dominated by power and politics, compassion and cooperation could bring about real change. As the Zephyrians began to recover, a new and terrifying threat emerged from the darkness of space. The Zalarians, a fierce and formidable alien race, set their sights on Zephyrian territory. Known for their ruthless tactics and advanced weaponry, the Zalarians were feared across the galaxy. Their sudden interest in the Zephyrians was a cause for alarm. The Zalarians had long sought to expand their empire. They viewed the Zephyrian systems as a valuable prize, rich in resources and strategically located. To them, the Zephyrians were not just a weak species, but an opportunity to increase their power and influence. The Zalarians were ruthless conquerors, and they showed no mercy to those who stood in their way. The attack began with little warning. Zalarian warships, sleek and menacing, appeared on the edge of Zephyrian space. The Zephyrians, still recovering from their earlier struggles, were unprepared for such a massive assault. Their defenses, though improved thanks to the humans, were quickly overwhelmed by the sheer force of the Zalarian fleet. Captain Elena Ramirez and her team watched in horror as the Zalarians began their assault. The humans had invested so much in helping the Zephyrians, and now it seemed that their efforts might be in vain. The Zephyrians were fighting bravely, but the Zalarians' superior firepower and numbers made it a desperate struggle. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Captain Ramirez took immediate action. She called for an emergency meeting with her team to devise a plan. The humans knew that they could not defeat the Zalarians alone, but they were determined to support their Zephyrian allies. The human team quickly rallied other sympathetic factions to join the fight. In the midst of the chaos, the Zephyrians' leaders and the human delegation worked together to organize a defense. They set up makeshift command centers and began coordinating their efforts. The Zalarians were relentless, launching wave after wave of attacks. Each assault pushed the Zephyrians closer to the brink of defeat. Captain Ramirez knew that they needed a bold strategy to turn the tide. She and her team used their knowledge of Zalarian tactics, gained through covert intelligence, to devise a plan. They identified key weaknesses in the Zalarian fleet and developed a strategy to exploit them. The humans worked tirelessly to implement this plan, providing the Zephyrians with the necessary tools and training. As the Zalarians continued their assault, the tide of the battle began to shift. The Zephyrians, bolstered by human support and new strategies, managed to hold their ground. They fought with newfound determination, inspired by the humans' commitment and bravery. The battle was fierce and grueling, but the Zephyrians and humans fought side by side, refusing to give in. Captain Ramirez and her team played a crucial role in the defense. They piloted advanced human ships, engaging Zalarian forces and providing vital support to the Zephyrian defenders. Their actions were instrumental in preventing the Zalarians from breaking through the defenses and capturing key locations. Despite their efforts, the battle was far from over. The Zalarians were relentless and continued to press their attack. The humans and Zephyrians faced mounting pressure as the fighting grew more intense. Yet the alliance between the two species proved to be a formidable force. In the midst of the chaos, the Zephyrians began to show their true strength. Their resilience and bravery, combined with the humans' strategic expertise, created a powerful defense. The Zalarians, though powerful, were beginning to face unexpected challenges. The once weak Zephyrians were proving that they were not to be underestimated. Captain Ramirez knew that the fight was far from over, but she remained hopeful. The humans and Zephyrians had managed to hold their ground, and that was a significant achievement. As the battle raged on, both species continued to fight with everything they had, determined to protect their homes and secure a future free from the threat of the Zalarians. The battle against the Zalarians had reached a critical point. The relentless assaults and overwhelming force of the Zalarian fleet seemed almost insurmountable. However, amidst the chaos and despair, a glimmer of hope began to emerge. The combined efforts of the Zephyrians and humans were starting to make a difference. Captain Elena Ramirez and her team continued to fight valiantly, but they knew they needed to turn the tide of the battle to secure a future for their allies. The Zephyrians, once seen as weak, were proving themselves to be capable and resilient. Their newfound strength, coupled with human ingenuity, started to make an impact on the battlefield. The first sign of change came with a daring plan devised by Captain Ramirez. She and her team, using their knowledge of Zalarian weaknesses, launched a series of strategic counterattacks. They targeted key Zalarian command ships and communication centers. By disrupting the Zalarian fleet's coordination, the humans and Zephyrians were able to create confusion and chaos among the enemy ranks. The Zephyrians, encouraged by these early successes, began to fight with renewed vigor. Their soldiers, once demoralized and struggling, now saw a chance to make a stand. They rallied around their human allies, using the new tactics and technology provided to them. The Zephyrians' energy shields, once barely effective, now held up against the Zalarian firepower. Their weapons, previously outdated, now struck with greater force. As the humans and Zephyrians coordinated their attacks, they managed to push back against the Zalarians. The tide of the battle slowly began to shift. The Zalarians, who had been so confident in their victory, now faced a formidable resistance. Their advance was halted, and for the first time in the conflict, they were forced to fight on the defensive. One of the most crucial moments came when the Zephyrians, under human guidance, launched a surprise assault on the Zalarian supply lines. The Zephyrians, using newly acquired stealth technology and advanced tactics, managed to cut off critical resources and reinforcements from reaching the Zalarian front lines. This move severely weakened the enemy's ability to sustain their attacks and put them on the back foot. Captain Ramirez and her team continued to support the Zephyrians with crucial intelligence and tactical advice. They worked closely with Zephyrian leaders, devising strategies to exploit the weaknesses they had identified in the Zalarian fleet. The humans' detailed knowledge of Zalarian technology and battle tactics proved to be a game-changer. As the battle raged on, the Zephyrians' confidence grew. They began to take the initiative, launching their own offensives and pushing the Zalarians away from their home worlds. The once feared invaders were now struggling to maintain their positions. The Zalarians, who had initially been so dominant, were now facing a determined and united front. The turning point came when Captain Ramirez and the Zephyrians executed a daring raid on the Zalarian command ship. The humans and Zephyrians, working together in a coordinated strike, managed to disable the command ship's systems and capture key Zalarian leaders. With their command structure in disarray, the Zalarian fleet was left vulnerable. The loss of their command ship and leaders had a profound effect on the Zalarians. Their once cohesive forces began to falter and their morale dropped. The humans and Zephyrians seized the opportunity, pressing their advantage and driving the Zalarians back. The battle, though still intense, was now clearly turning in favor of the defenders. The Zalarians, who had been so confident of victory, were now being forced to retreat. The combined strength and determination of the Zephyrians and humans had proven to be a powerful force, and the invaders were being pushed away from the Zephyrian worlds. Captain Ramirez, though exhausted, felt a sense of triumph. The tide had turned, and the Zephyrians were reclaiming their space. The once weak species had shown their true strength, and the humans had played a crucial role in their victory. The battle was far from over, but the future now looked brighter for the Zephyrians and their human allies. The battle against the Zalarians had reached its climax. The relentless efforts of the Zephyrians and their human allies had driven the once feared invaders back. The skies over Zephyrian worlds were now clear of Zalarian warships, and a new sense of hope filled the air. Captain Elena Ramirez and her team, though weary from the intense conflict, were filled with a deep sense of accomplishment. The Zephyrians had fought bravely, and with the help of the humans, they had reclaimed their space and secured their future. The victory was not just a military achievement, but a symbol of the strength and unity that had emerged from the crisis. In the aftermath of the battle, the Zephyrians began the process of rebuilding their war-torn worlds. The once damaged cities were now bustling with activity as people worked together to restore their homes and infrastructure. The technological advancements provided by the humans had proven invaluable, and the Zephyrians embraced these new tools to help in their recovery. The human team continued to support their allies, offering expertise and assistance in the rebuilding efforts. They helped the Zephyrians with engineering projects, provided medical care, and shared knowledge about improving their technology. The bond between the two species had grown strong during the conflict, and they were now working together to build a brighter future. One of the most significant changes was the establishment of a new alliance between the Zephyrians and humans. This alliance was based on mutual respect and shared goals. The two species agreed to work together on various projects, from scientific research to cultural exchange. The alliance was a testament to the power of cooperation and the positive outcomes that could arise from working together. The Zephyrians, who had once been seen as weak and forsaken, were now regarded as resilient and capable. Their newfound strength and the support from their human allies had transformed their reputation in the galaxy. Other species who had once turned their backs on the Zephyrians began to take notice. The Zephyrians were no longer seen as a relic of the past, but as a vital part of the galaxy's future. Captain Ramirez and her team were celebrated as heroes among the Zephyrians. They were honored for their bravery and commitment, and their contributions were recognized with gratitude. The human team had not only helped the Zephyrians defend their worlds, but had also shown that compassion and cooperation could make a difference in even the darkest times. As the Zephyrians and humans looked to the future, they faced new challenges and opportunities. The alliance between the two species opened up possibilities for joint ventures and collaborations. They began working on projects that aimed to advance technology, explore new frontiers, and promote peace and understanding across the galaxy. The once impossible dream of a united and cooperative galaxy seemed within reach. The success of the Zephyrian-human alliance served as a beacon of hope for other species, showing that even in a galaxy where power and politics often overshadowed compassion, positive change was possible. Captain Ramirez and her team knew that their work was far from over. They continued to support their allies and build upon the foundation they had created. Their efforts had not only saved the Zephyrians, but had also set a precedent for future cooperation and unity. As the Zephyrians and humans celebrated their victory and looked forward to a new era, They did so with a shared sense of purpose and optimism. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of a new era, one marked by the strength of unity and the promise of a brighter future for all. The story of the Zephyrians and humans had become a symbol of hope and resilience. It was a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, the power of cooperation and compassion could lead to remarkable outcomes. And so, as the stars shone brightly over a recovering Zephyrian world, the new era began, filled with possibilities and the promise of a better tomorrow.